Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and in 2019 Apple has a fairly robust yet somewhat confusing lineup of iPhones, and so I wanted to try and help you decide which one is best for you. Now if you don't follow Apple regularly, this can be fairly confusing. Even if you do follow them regularly, their lineup has been pretty confusing lately. So we have 5 different offerings or styles of iPhone currently available. We have the iPhone 7, we have the 8 and 8 Plus, so we still have the 7 and 7 Plus. I just don't have both of those here. We have the 8 and 8 Plus, we have the XR, the XS, and the XSMax. And all of these are very good phones. None of them are bad. There are just different features and build depending on which one you choose. So you need to know that they're offering 5 different ones. 2 of them come in different sizes. We also have different colors and materials. So as far as colors are concerned, in the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, this is a jet black color that isn't currently offered, but they do offer space gray, silver, gold, and rose gold. For the iPhone 8 Plus, we have a similar lineup, and then we get the most colors with the iPhone XR. This is the current product red edition, but we have all sorts of colors for this one. You can do the space gray and silver, but you've also got a bunch of other colors as well that all look really nice, from blue to yellow. And then let's flip this one over. The XS is in space gray, and then silver for the XSMax. And all of them are really nice. They're all really well built, and they are made out of different materials depending on which one you choose. So if you choose the iPhone 7, you're going to get aluminum on the back. The back of this is aluminum, the front is glass, and that is the difference between all of these. These all have wireless charging with the exception of iPhone 7. So if wireless charging is a deciding factor or decision-making factor for you, you want to go with an 8 Plus or newer. Then you'll get wireless charging by setting these on a wireless charging pad. The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus don't have that, but it is aluminum. It might be a little bit more durable because it doesn't have glass on the back, but that's something you get with the 7 and 7 Plus. With the iPhone 8, you retain the traditional design with the Touch ID fingerprint sensor, but you've got wireless charging and a little bit faster processor, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. So those are the deciding factors right there. So if you want that traditional design, but you have to have wireless charging, this is the way to go with an 8 or 8 Plus. Now, if you have to have Face ID, but you don't want to spend a ton of money, you've got the iPhone XR. And the XR has an LCD display, as does the 7 and 7 Plus and 8 and 8 Plus. And we have a liquid retina LCD display on the XR. Now, some people say this isn't a great display. I tend to disagree. It's a very nice display, and most people I've shown this side by side with the XSMax can't tell the difference as far as quality. Some people can or say they can, but I've yet to find anyone that really can. But this is a great option. It has the Face ID sensor. If you like that, lock the phone, unlock it with your face, and you're good to go. And that's very convenient for some. I do know some that don't like Face ID. So if you don't like Face ID, you've got 2 choices currently. Let's also flip the XS over. This is a little bit faster. And again, this one and the XSMax are a little bit different in that they are made of stainless steel instead of aluminum. These outside rings are stainless steel, and that gives it durability, but also shows more scratches if you don't have it in a case. So the XSMax has some scratches just from trying to plug it in here, and that's normal. It will scratch a little bit, kind of like those old iPods. If you had an older iPod with the stainless steel back that was highly polished, it will scratch over time, just like that. Now, of course, another deciding factor is screen size, from 4.7 inches all the way to 6.5. So if that's a major factor for you, that is going to easily help you determine which phone to get. But as far as overall speed and everything else, they're more similar than you would think. We've got the A10 processor all the way up to the A12 Bionic. And if you go through all of these, they all kind of do the same thing, with the exception of the forward-facing cameras. Now, the rear-facing cameras on all of them are quite good. If we go into the camera on this, I'm not sure where it is on this phone. Oh, there it is. Let me open it. The rear-facing camera is quite good. In fact, most people, if you're posting on Instagram or social media, this is going to be fine. If you're trying to record 4K high-quality video, it will do that. So it just depends on what you're trying to do with it. But when it comes to forward-facing cameras, well, these 3 are the same because they have the true depth sensor that allows you to do emoji and things like that. If we go into the camera, we have portrait mode here. It will track your face, do portrait with a true depth camera. And then, of course, we can do memoji or animoji. And you can do this with all of these phones here from the XR and newer. And of course, one of the major factors for most people is price. And if we take a look at the price, currently we've got $449 all the way up to $1,449 or $1,449, which in my opinion is just absurd for an iPhone. It's more than some MacBooks that they offer or iPads. So here we have $449 for the base iPhone 7, and then we step up as we go along. And one thing you can do now that Apple's pushing quite a lot is if you have an iPhone 6s Plus, for example, or an iPhone 6s or 6, you can upgrade to the XR for $449. So this is a great value for that price, and is a great phone. Now, of course, if you want that dual camera, you're going to have to go with a Plus phone if you want to use Zoom, or one of the XS and XS Max phones, as these both have dual cameras. And the dual cameras, I find that with zooming, this actually does a pretty good job with digital zoom. So let me show you some of the camera pictures side by side. We'll go through a couple of them, and I'll just show you the exact same photo side by side taken on each one of them, and then I'll show you one zoomed as well so that you can see what it looks like. They all have video stabilization. They all do a great job with video, and I think you'll find that they're all quite good. But take a look at the photos from this. So when it comes to photos at night, these three are going to be a little bit better just because that's what Apple focused on with these cameras. They made them a little bit better at night, and it does have that going for it. Also, when it comes to speed, while the processors are a little bit different, they're not as different as you would think. So when you're doing something such as opening music, if you want to just open music here, we'll go to For You, or go to library, you'll see they both act equally fast. There's not really an issue with simple apps like that. If you wanted to open something a little bit more advanced, let's see what we have here. If we want to open something like Minecraft, you'll see on the oldest phone here and the newest one, the oldest one's actually beating it a little bit. And I find this to be true in every single test I do. And I don't know if that has to do with the way Apple works with the processor on this phone or not, but we'll hit continue, and I'll just load a world so I can show you how fast it is on the fastest and the slowest that we have here. So we'll create a new one, create new, and then create. And I'll show you how fast it loads. This is a typical thing I find on these phones. So this one should be faster in theory, but it's not. And that's what I find over and over. So that doesn't mean this one is slow by any means. It just means with this particular game, it may not be as optimized. But what I'm trying to show you by that is don't be afraid to get an iPhone 7 or 7 Plus, because if you play games a lot, you're probably going to experience the same speed, sometimes faster load speeds on the older processors, as they can speed up their processor faster than you can on the newer phones for some reason. This seems to be pretty typical in every test I've run. Now, before we talk about the displays and battery life, I wanted to show you one more speed test where we're going to compare the speed in which they can export 4K video. And 4K video is one of the most intensive things to export, not only on a phone, but also a laptop or desktop computer. So I've got iMovie here. I've got nothing open on any one of these devices. I've got iMovie with a project here, and they're all the same project. Now, this one's showing a little bit different, even though it's the exact same file. I've moved them over and it's just airdropped them to each one, and it's 1 minute and 14 seconds long. So let me go ahead and share these. And you'll see we have the option for 4K on all of them. Now, I'll try to press them at the same time. I'm not sure I can do that, but let's see what we can do here. And we'll let go. And they're all running at the same time. I'll speed this up so you don't have to wait, but let's see what they do. Now, this one is going incredibly fast. Now, there is a little bit of an asterisk here, and the reason is this one is not HEVC encoded. This one is H.264 encoded. So that's going to be a little bit faster than the older or the newer devices, because these are all in HEVC. To get that same file here, you have to record in H.264. So you'll see that was incredibly fast, but if you're sending an HEVC file to it, it has to convert anyway. So this one is going to be quicker. Now, even with last year's processor here and this year's processor here, we're very, very even as far as speed is concerned. This probably exported faster than a computer would at this point. It's incredible how fast iPhones can export 4K video. And you'll see they're all very close. In fact, the older devices are actually faster in exporting. And this is the case in every video I've done this test in. There's nothing special being done here. And let's just see if they're warm at all. The iPhone 7's not warm. The 8 Plus is not warm at all. 10R, maybe a little bit right there. Maybe that's kind of where the encoder is on the chipset. Same thing. It's not very warm. This one's a little bit warm right in here, but very, very minor, not very hot at all. So that's pretty impressive. And basically that just goes to show that you can use any one of these phones to do 4K video and video editing if you want to on the go. Now, when it comes to the displays of these, only one of these displays does not have 3D touch, and that's the 10R. The 10R has haptic touch, so if you try and 3D press on Instagram, for example, it doesn't do anything. But if I do the same thing over here, it will pop out. And that's something that's really nice. If you're used to that, it's going to be difficult to pick the 10R. If you're not used to it, then it won't matter at all. But you do get some of the same sort of peak and pop functions, especially in the control center. You can do that here. You'll see you can push on it just like you could in the 10S and the 10R. Does the same thing. So you've got some of those functions all throughout the control center, but you don't get those with the applications. Now, they may add this in the future, but they haven't yet. Now, again, when it comes to the displays, I'm not going to talk about specific resolution, but know that these two are OLED displays and a much higher resolution. However, because of the size of the displays, when you're looking at these versus this, they're very similar as far as the way they look. Now, some people say based off the resolution of the 10R, they can tell. The only people I've had be able to tell is around the edges here, where it gets a little bit fuzzy. And that's because they actually make the pixels themselves smaller to try and fudge that edge. Instead of using just a picture and keeping it a square edge, it's actually a curved edge under a microscope. So it works really well. I think most people will love this, especially if it's in a case. You're not even going to notice the edge. But compared to these are much more vibrant displays on the 10S and 10S Max. They're also much higher resolution and OLED, so they'll show deeper blacks, more vibrant colors. So keep that in mind. They are definitely better looking, but there's also something else to keep in mind, and this is only going to affect 1 in 10 people. Not many people seem to bring this up, but it's called pulse width modulation, or PWM. OLED displays flicker. They're flickering all the time. You can't see them with your eye, but under certain frame rates, you can actually see this. And this can affect people's eyes. It can strain them and also make some people feel nauseated. So just keep that in mind. That's pretty rare. It's 1 in 10. In fact, I'm affected by this, so that's why I bring it up. If I look at a 10S or 10S Max for too long, that affects me. Looking at LCDs, it doesn't affect me because Apple's not using that. And what that means is it flickers the screen at different rates based on its brightness. The brighter it is, the less it's going to flicker. When it brings the display down in brightness, it's going to flicker more. And it will, even though you can't actually see it, you can feel the effects of it. So if you're looking at it all day, it could cause eye strain. Again, that's not most people. Now, the other thing to keep in mind with these displays is these are LCD displays. So the LCD displays are known technology. They work really well, and they're less expensive to replace if you break them and you don't have Apple Care. So keep that in mind. These are going to be much more expensive, about $100 to $200 more, where these are usually about $150. These can be $250 to $300 to replace these displays. Now, when it comes to the battery, the 10R is the winner here, and the reason for that is the lower resolution display. Now, in generic tests where you just run them all day, this actually isn't the best, but in everyone's day-to-day use, you'll find that this is the best by far, usually by a good hour or so. And that means 6 to 7 or even 8 hours of screen on time, depending on your usage. And that doesn't mean it's like the older iPhones where it showed you actual usage time. This is completely different than that. They changed it with iOS 12. Usage is the amount of time the screen is actually on now. So screen on time, this one is going to win, and usually the XS Max after that. They're going to be very similar between these two for battery, but they will get the best. Then these two, the 8 Plus and the XS, are going to be very similar. The XS may actually beat it in some circumstances. Depends on a lot of different factors and how you use it, but that is something to keep in mind. The 7 and 7 Plus are also good, but the 10R is actually better. Now, when it comes to charging, you can fast charge these newer phones much faster, especially wirelessly. And if you have a MacBook charger such as this, and you really got to charge it quickly, you can do that on the go. If you have a MacBook charger already, you just need the cable that goes from USB-C to Lightning, and you can charge it much more quickly. So you have that option. And then also when it comes to something that people don't normally consider, LTE reception or phone reception, there seems to be a problem with these three new phones compared to these. These tend to have better cell signal and reception and Wi-Fi over time. For some reason, Apple had to switch to a different antenna, or not necessarily antenna, but different company. They had to switch all these to Intel. Now, some of these use Intel modems as well, but there's something different about these three devices that could be due to the design of them and the way the antenna is around the outside. We're not really sure, but Apple has not technically acknowledged it, but many, many people complain about it. So if your number one thing is making phone calls, you may want to go with one of these because they seem to be pretty tried and true. So that's really it between all of these. Hopefully that gives you a good idea as to which one you should buy. Of course, if you want to save some money, you've got these three here. The XR is a great choice if you want all the modern features, but you also want a less expensive phone with great battery life. But let me know which one you would pick in the comments below, or which one you have picked if you're going to get an iPhone or you just got one. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below, or even maybe an older iPhone. Let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. Oh, and this wallpaper will be linked in the description. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.